Okay, let's have a look at the West Tigers' 5-game losing streak to start the season, the 2023 NRL season. Let's have a look. So, what is interesting, what I've noticed, is they've only broken 20 points once. 4 of their 5 defeats are against other sides that also failed to make the final 8 last year. The only side they've lost to that did make the final 8 last year is the Melbourne Storm. And it's quite telling. Really, they really are struggling to score points, and they are conceding a lot. And the Brisbane Broncos defeat is utterly embarrassing. We will also look at their points per game average scored and points per game average conceded, and then we'll look at the halves combination and have they let the wrong half go, basically. So they start their season against the Gold Coast Titans at home. They score 10 points. Gold Coast score 22. Gold Coast have had a decent start to the season. They've lost 2, they've won 2. They had a bye this weekend. 22-10 loss. That's a disappointing start to your season, really. Gold Coast, another side that really underperformed last year. As I say, they've had a decent start to their season. Round 2, they were at home again against the Newcastle Knights. Of course, the Jackson Hastings situation. Now, Jackson Hastings played for West Tigers last year. He's been signed by the Newcastle Knights. Newcastle win 14 points to 12. And Newcastle have had a decent start to their season as well. Now, we can debate, the Kate Ponga situation over there, but Newcastle have had a decent start to their season. They're not looking bad. They're looking competitive. They're looking a lot better than last year. West, Jesus Christ, they lose again. And that's a tight game they could have won. That's a game they could have won, which is disappointing. Then they come up against the Canterbury Bulldogs away. They lose 26 points to 22 in another game they could have won. Now, Canterbury, again, have had a very good start to their season. They've also beaten Melbourne, another team that has gone on to beat the West Tigers. Another close game they lose. And this is a bit of a trend after 3 rounds. Now, the 3 sides they've lost to so far at this point have all had decent starts to their season. They've all kicked on from last year. They've all improved from last year, in my opinion, with how they're playing. Wests seem to be going backwards. They've got poor game management, and this is the first and only time they'll break the 20-point mark in scoring. So they're not scoring enough either. They really are struggling in attack. Round 4 against the Melbourne Storm. Now, Melbourne have had an indifferent start to the season by Melbourne standards. Now, there are some injuries and suspensions there. West Tigers gave them a good go in the first half, fell away in the second half. It finishes 24 points to 12 in favour of Melbourne. So they were in the game, and then they fall away. Now, Melbourne, well, they've had a bit of an indifferent start. They did make the 8 last year. Too good for West Tigers. Far too good for the West Tigers. And of course, this weekend, as I'm recording this video, they were battered 46 points to 12. The first half was dreadful. I think they were 28-0 down at half-time. They showed a bit more fight in the second half, but the damage had been done. Really just hopeless. The floodgates open defensively all over the place, and again, not scoring enough points. So, in total, they've scored 68 points in attack so far this season. That averages out at 13.6 points per game scored. Points against, they've conceded double, basically, 132 points conceded, which averages out at 26.4 points per game conceded. So, for every point they score, they're basically conceding 2. It's not a good defensive record so far. And then we look at the halves. So Luke Brooks, obviously, there were rumours last year, there was unrest, he wanted to go to the Newcastle Knights, where, guess what, Jackson Hastings ends up. They decide to retain Luke Brooks and let Jackson Hastings go, and I think that is a dreadful error of judgment, because Jackson Hastings at the Newcastle Knights is having a fantastic season so far. I know we're only 5 games in, and there's been bye rounds and all that, but after 5 rounds, Jackson Hastings is looking very comfortable with his new team. Luke Brooks, the incumbent, shocking. Is a nice way to describe Luke Brooks' season so far. Now, Adam Dewey started off in the halves. He's now been moved to fullback, and Brandon Wakeham is now his halves partner. It's not really helping, really. So, do they change up again by dropping Luke Brooks and going with Wakeham and Dewey in the halves? Or do they keep with the current spine that they've decided to go with Brooks, Wakeham and Dewey at fullback? Because something's not working here. Now, they let Jackson Hastings go. Now, could that be the error of judgment by Tim Sheens when he comes in as an advisor and then takes over the coaching? Is that a flaw of the error of judgment of Tim Sheens? Does he not see Jackson Hastings as the guy who can solve the problems with game management, control, and creativity? They keep going with Luke Brooks. How many coaches has Luke Brooks been under? And it's not worked. One good season out of how many? How many halves partners has he now had? It still hasn't worked. Surely repeating the same action over and over again, is that not a sign of madness? Is that not the definition of madness, expecting a different outcome? Is Luke Brooks the problem? Or is it how the whole squad is made up? Is it their recruitment? Is it their return? A whole load of issues that continue to reoccur. The same questions keep coming up. They need to get a result soon. Yes, other teams are having poor starts to the season. The Raiders aren't having a good start to the season. I'm a Raiders fan, and that was a dreadful performance at the weekend as well, shipping over 50 points to Penrith. So other teams are also struggling, but other teams have managed to get wins. West Tigers can't get a win. Their defence is not good enough. Their attack is not good enough. And of course, with the attack, you need the spine. And already they've changed the half partner for Luke Brooks. It's actually had a negative impact because they scored 22 points against Canterbury. They've dropped back again with 12 points and 12 points. They seem to like scoring 12 points a lot. That seems to be their limit, and then they just can't get past, breaking the 10, 12 point barrier. They've only done that once. Is Luke Brooks the issue? Anyway, place your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll have some more content for you very, very soon. And from me, for now, it's goodbye.